I know the subtitle to this book is A History of Professional Wrestling. That's what it's about, honest. But I feel the need to explain the main title before we get started, just in case you've been expecting a Mills and Boon novel rather than a man from the Midlands detailing over a century's worth of grappling. Before I get to that, I'd like to give you a mission statement of sorts as well. I'm fully aware that if I go into extreme detail about everything that has ever happened ever in the entire history of wrestling, then this book will run to about 500 volumes. I know I'll skip over a few things and that a lot of the focus will probably be from 1984 onwards, for reasons that will become apparent as you're listening. I'm not a historian or a scholar. I'm a huge wrestling fan who has been watching for decades, and I've managed to start making my living working within the world of wrestling, as well as my original field of expertise, stand-up comedy. If you want a scientific dissection of any year since wrestling began, then trawl through the archives of Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer newsletter. I'm here to have a laugh, walk you through some of the defining moments in wrestling history, and try to nail down why I, and so many other people, adore this quasi-sport so much. So, here's my statement. There's far too much history in professional wrestling to go through the full history of professional wrestling in this history of professional wrestling. Let's keep it fun, shall we? Anyway, the title. The Citrus Bowl in Orlando, now renamed as the much less iconic Camping World Stadium. 30th of March 2008. WrestleMania 24. Following immediately after a match that lasted all of 11 seconds, Kane winning the ECW title from Chavo Guerrero, two legends took to the ring. Ric Flair, the bleach blonde veteran who somehow survived a plane crash at the start of his career in the 1970s, to go on to be considered the greatest of all time by millions. His opponent, Shawn Michaels, nicknamed Mr. WrestleMania because of his knack for having the best matches at the annual showcase, another man who is considered by many to be one of the very best to lace up a pair of boots. Under a cloudy central Florida sky, the two legends went at it. The storyline mainly concerned Flair, who had been wrestling for most of 2008 with a cloud over his head. The next time he lost a match, he would have to retire. After being told he would be entering the WWE Hall of Fame in February, he challenged Shawn Michaels to a match with both men knowing the emotional stakes at hand. You don't retire from wrestling like you do from working in a building society branch in Yorkshire, as far as I'm aware. The match lasted a shade over 20 minutes. With his career on the line, Flair kept kicking out of pinfall attempts and escaping submission holds, matching the younger Michaels hold for hold, counter for counter. Flair had already kicked out of Michaels' signature move, sweet chin music, a super kick to the jaw, once, when Michaels caught him with it again. As Flair got to his feet, groggy, Michaels wore a look of concern, but did what needed to be done. A 35-year career was about to end. Flair circled around the ring on unsteady legs, ready to be beaten. His eyes locked with Michaels, who seemed to be welling up. Time stood still. The near 75,000 crowd lowered their voices, and Michaels said to his foe, "I'm sorry, I love you." With that, a third superkick connected with Flair, and he was pinned in the centre of the ring, ending his career on the grandest possible stage with a moment that fans like me still speak of now. I've seen it parodied countless times, and other wrestlers try to better it. For me, it's one of the finest and most emotional moments in wrestling history, and it's just a few words at the end of a match. But wrestling isn't just oiled-up guys in spandex having a scrap. It can take you on the same roller coaster that any good film, book, or album can. When done well, like this match, it can make you cry your eyes out. Of course, this is professional wrestling. You'll learn from this book that it frequently skips from the sublime to the ridiculous quite quickly, and a few minutes after this landmark moment in the sport, the crowd was watching a Playboy Bunny Mania Lumberjill match. I was too busy crying to know what that was, and I still don't. You'll also learn that nobody ever retires. Ric Flair was wrestling again a couple of years later, slightly taking the gloss off what I consider to be the greatest retirement of all time by, not actually retiring. This book takes its title from that one moment because it encapsulates one of the many reasons why I love wrestling. Anyone as nerdy as me already knows what it refers to, but probably got a little twinge reading through the events again. There's a double meaning, though. My dad has no idea why I love wrestling. When I worked in an office, pre-stand-up, I never told any of my colleagues that I had a whole room full of videotapes that I'd sent off to the USA and Japan for, so I could absorb as much wrestling as possible. Until I became a comedian, I always hid it. Now I'm genuinely not sorry that I love it so much, but I think that some people may need to know the full scale of the wonder of wrestling to understand why I and millions of others adore it so. So, that's the title explained. If you accidentally bought this book for your sister Maureen to read after a hip operation, then I'm truly sorry. But she's about to learn a heck of a lot about wrestling. Lucky Maureen, I say.